that's our quick review of the highlights. We do have time for some questions so I can open the floor for that if anybody has any.
I was just wondering if in any of the research you did, you took into consideration the fact that all of the provinces now have a requirement for high school students to do community hours and how that would affect your stats.
Yeah, we do. We actually asked. We asked that. It's not driving the youth statistics. It does have a small. A small component of it, but it's not driving it.
Michael, Larry Gamble. Just to clarify the categorization, in the category of religious organizations, either for volunteering or giving, would you include organizations like the Knights of Columbus, Salvation Army, and so on, those that have religious foundation, as opposed to church congregations? I just wasn't sure of the inclusion in that category. Or even a more difficult, something like the YMCA that had religious origins but is essentially secular today.
Yeah, that's a bit tricky. We try to classify according to what the major purpose of the organization is. So the Ys would certainly not be a religious organization. The Knights of Columbus, that's a good one. I suspect not, but I wouldn't bet on it, and I don't know whether our colleagues have any insight on that. And the Salvation Army is in fact the largest social service provider in the country, but also has a religious aspect to it. And I could guess where they're classified, but does anybody on the team want to? No. I'm guessing. We're not, I mean, we grapple with this, but part of it is trying to figure it out. I think with the Salvation Army, I'm not sure where we put that up.
It wouldn't be religious.
I don't think so. That's right. Thank you, Tom. That's Tom Dufour, who's leading up the survey shop along with Will and Jackie. So thanks, Larry.
I was just wondering if you can give us a highlight on maybe some of the key trends that has been observed relating to immigrants. That's the follow-up from your last report.
Right. So the question is some trends on immigrants as a follow-on to the last report. Thanks for the question. We have really pretty much the same findings we found. There aren't any really significant differences. And what we have found is that new Canadians who are when they first arrive in the country, have slightly lower levels of volunteering and giving. But as time moves on, they start to approximate the national norm. And in fact, people who've immigrated to Canada and have been here for a substantial amount of time start to actually give at higher rates than the rest of the population. But there hasn't been any noticeable change.
And perhaps, if I may,
To try to do is point out to individual organizations that there are opportunities here to reach out to new Canadians. If you look at research that's been conducted, even in terms of the workforce in charities and nonprofit organizations, there is a clear sense that we are not representative of the broader makeup of the population, and I don't think we really understand why that is, whether there are barriers to participation, but certainly organizations need to look at that. We think there's great opportunity there, and as a country that is relies so much on immigration and new Canadians, if we want to keep our sector vital, we have to find a way to include them. The early evidence is it's a little difficult to work out how to make that happen. And we haven't done the generational work, and which is the other piece, is what happens second generation and third generation. But I think even just looking at our what we know from the research, we have a lot of room for improvement in terms of our ability to take advantage of those resources.
Just a follow-up to the analysis of ethnocultural communities, have you done something similar for Aboriginal and GLBT communities?
No, we haven't. We really haven't. We certainly capture some of that, but the analysis hasn't been done.
Michael, Karen Lynch, Volunteer Canada Board. What about the questions around rural versus urban volunteering? Is there any breakdown on that?
No, not in this report. It's something that we would have to drill down later. Certainly that's an issue that people are paying more and more attention to. One of the things that we have been doing is trying to get a better sense interestingly, on capturing the urban areas in our survey, precisely because we're trying to understand some of the ethnocultural aspects. The regional breakdowns we don't see. You can see some of it on the provincial, obviously, but we know from other research, which I'm sure you're aware of, that there are a lot of challenges that rural organizations are facing, particularly around volunteers, and particularly around this thin base of support, because there's the notion of the super volunteer in rural communities that are just being taxed. And so we haven't broken it out in this, but hopefully we can do a later dissemination.
Do you have
Great
the
question.
data that you can break down?
Yes.
Good, thanks.
Hi there, I was just wondering if you notice any correlations between the amount of direct support and also volunteer hours in the north or in the territories? Or if that was a correlation that had been made, or?
Oh, you mean the direct help versus volunteering, whether they're trading off?
Yeah, if there's
Yeah.
more direct support in the north versus volunteer hours and how that's related.
No, we haven't done that analysis. It's a great question. I mean, that's one of the reasons we have the direct help questionnaire. And the notion, I mean, part of the challenge in the north is, frankly, there really aren't as many organizations. Well, there's two things. There's cultural aspects, but in that, organizing, in the rest of Canada, what volunteering and giving is organizing, helping through institutions. We create organizations, and then we all connect to those organizations, and we go and we support our community in one way. First of all, in the north, there aren't those institutions to do that, and secondly, there's a culture of direct helping. And so the question, when you look at volunteer rates in the north, one should always ask themselves the question. That's why we put the direct help. It's not an indication of willingness to help in a community. It's just there's a variety of ways to do it. But we haven't done that specific analysis, which would be a great topic for research.